Welcome, boys, to 1994, the albums. How you doing?
G'day, Leo. G'day, Wes.
Hey, hi, y'all.
You got an American accent there, Wes. Who
Uh,
have you been hanging out with this week?
yeah, a few Australians who call themselves, a few Americans who call themselves Australian.
Can't shake that accent.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, let's have a look. 1994. We did the singles last time, and
Yep.
today we count down our top five albums. We rank them from five to one, and looking forward to see what you guys have come up with. Happy with my top five,
Oh
but
boy.
yeah, it should be interesting.
Lucky.
Yeah, you're lucky with that, mate. I'm struggling.
Okay. Well, we'll start with Martin, and maybe Martin, you can start with your number five.
Okay, a bit of a cultural bomb, this one, I think. It's a compilation album that reframed an act from 20 years before. And it's If I Were a Carpenter, various artists in tribute to the Carpenters. And had acts like Sonic Youth, the Cranberries, Sheryl Crow, Matthew Sweet, and the cream of the uh, probably had already peaked the grunge scene and the alternative scene. Um, and I thought that this was a really interesting record because it was like the marketing people would like us to have young people over here and good income earners over there and high income earners over there and older people over here. But this was effectively the kids saying, hey, look, good music is good music. And it's not punk, it's not new wave, it's not post whatever, postmodern attitude perhaps. But it was like good music is good music and let's appreciate it. Let's foreground, I mean, Faith No More had kind of done it a couple of years earlier with their cover of the Commodore song Easy. And they didn't heavy rock it up. They didn't rearrange it so it sounded like Faith No More. They did a very sincere, kind of a photocopy in some respects. And I love this. This was the kids saying, hey, look, we appreciate the old stuff because it's good, whatever style you want to call it. If I Were a Carpenter, that's my number five.
Okay, good start. Wow. What
And
about you?
maybe it was the death of postmodernism. Maybe that was the point in which postmodernism was now mainstream and now it's time for something else. This sincere irony. Yeah, we're being a bit ironic, but we actually mean it. So we're not really ironic at all. It's a genuine tribute. And that's postmodernism for you. So now we're post the postmodern, post the postmodern era. And I don't know what we call it. I read something somewhere the other day that there's a name for it, whatever that might be. In 30 years, we'll talk about what this means, but
Okay,
all right.
today.
Assuming the show goes that long.
Wes, what about you? You're number five. Can you top that?
No, if you're thinking I'm a big fan of 1994, I'm not.
Ah,
While I own several of the top albums of the year, I'm not sure that they all survived the next 30 years unscathed. I'm talking about Mariah Carey's Music Box, U2's Europa, Billy Joel's River of Dreams, as well as a host of best of projects from ABBA, Bryan Adams, Eagles, NXS, Wet Wet Wet, and Bon Jovi. John Farnham, Jimmy Barnes, The Bad Loves, and Screaming Jets all made good albums in 1994, but none of them have made my top five. Five soundtracks sold extremely well. They were Forrest Gump, Reality Bites, Priscilla, Four Weddings and a Funeral, and The Lion King. Elton John and Tim Rice wrote several songs for the Lion King soundtrack, including Circle of Life, Can You Feel the Love Tonight, and Hakuna Matata. The project features hundreds of singers in different roles, including Elton, Rick Astley, Kiki Dee, and Gary Barlow from Take That. Andre Crouch, the first gospel singer to perform at the Sydney Opera House, did many of the choral arrangements. Andre previously worked with Madonna on Like a Prayer, Rick Astley on Cry for Help, and Michael Jackson on Man in the Mirror. The Lion King soundtrack album peaked at number 3 in 94 and has sold 300,000 copies in Australia. It's my number 5 album of 1994. Speechless.
So the Lion King soundtrack there, Wes.
You don't seem impressed.
Oh, yeah, it was
No,
a
well,
great movie.
it's we're not as impressed with the year either. So that's the reality. Right, you put that forward as a consolation prize, and we're like, yeah, that's fine. No, look, we appreciate the skill involved.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's peak Elton. I don't know if it's peak Andre Crouch either.
No?
But it achieved what it achieved. And, I went and saw the movie when it was re-released,
Yeah.
5 or 6 years ago. And not many people in the cinema.
I love
And-
the stage show. It's always been full in Melbourne. And yeah, in terms of longevity, the album may not have, had a lot of longevity, but I tell you, so many people still go along and see that show.
Yeah, I can appreciate that.
My number 5, I was into punk rock when it first came out in the mid-70s. Bands like the Sex Pistols and the Saints really piqued my attention and enjoyed it. The Ramones. And I think when it was brought into the mainstream, it was something fresh, invigorating. And the second coming to the mainstream came in around 94. And one of the bands that heralded that was a band called Green Day. And their mainstream debut, Dookie, is my number 5. Great rock and roll punk attitude, sneering vocals by Billy Joe Armstrong, songs that he pretty much wrote out of personal experience. And when I first heard "When I Come Around," the single off that album, I thought, this is great. This is if this is where things are going, I'm following because I just love that 2 to 3 minute rock nugget. Of course, we go back to our Triple J listening, and they jumped on board pretty much at that time, and that's my number 5. Green Day, Dookie.
Mhm.
Martin, you're number 4.
Do you remember the once or twice a year record sales that the big stores used to have?
Yeah.
My number 4, I picked up, Brushes would have this huge record sale, and $32 CDs would be $10. And something you wouldn't look twice at, you did look twice, and then maybe you looked a third time, and then maybe you got your wallet out. And I did with this one. It was from an Aussie band, The Church, who we know quite well. And an album of theirs that is relatively obscure in the catalogue, I guess, Sometime Anywhere. Peter Copps, one of the 2 guitarists in the band, had taken a leave of absence by this stage. So effectively, it was their drummer, it was Steve Kilby on bass and lead vocal, and also Marty Wilson Piper playing lots of 12-string electric guitar and also singing lead vocal on some songs. The power pop singles that we know so well, nowhere to be found on here. It was all dreamy, meandering, kind of absent-minded in some respects, not in a hurry to get anywhere in particular. But if you're in a certain frame of mind, just, a Sunday afternoon with a cool drink, put your feet up, put this one on, zone out a little bit. It was great. Sometime Anywhere by The Church. And It was $10, so you can't laugh at that. You did laugh at that. You can't sneer at that. You can't sneer at that.
That's
you're
I'm
right.
not sneering at that. I
No.
think the church are just sensational.
Yeah, good call, Martin.
Well, their longevity speaks for itself,
Yeah.
and Peter Cops did come back, and no longer with the band, as indeed Marty Wilson Piper isn't either. But constant reinvention, constant exploration.
Nice. Where's number 4?
Well, this is a group or trio that has been around almost as long as the church. They're probably the most successful Australian trio you've never heard of. Now, the brothers have been together for 30 years. They appeared at the 2000 Olympic Games opening ceremony. They sang the Channel 7 Home and Away theme between 2000 and 2006. They opened for the Electric Light Orchestra, America, and the late John Denver.
Oh, you're not talking about the Cosmic Psychos then?
No. They've achieved top 10 hits in Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Indonesia, and Lebanon, but not here. They were nominated for Best New Talent at the ARIA Awards in 1994 and have won 8 Mo Awards. They're one of the most active touring groups in the country, playing to sell out crowds wherever they perform. Their debut album, released in 1994, featured the songs I Know Why, Winter in America, that's the cover of the Doug Ashdown song,
Right.
Message, and Can't Cry Hard Enough. I'm talking about Jeff, Ben, and Stuart Robertson, the Robertson brothers, and their smooth adult contemporary album, Symmetry. My number 4 pick of 1994.
There you go. You're right. I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah.
Robertson brothers. They constantly tour
Yeah.
around the country, and they've been doing it with their nostalgia shows, and they're just highly engaging performances. And I've seen them in the local Performing Arts Centre, and they were recently through here again.
Okay.
They're just active performers who do extremely well, entertaining the crowds.
Awesome. My number 4 is a band that I didn't get when they first hit the scene. But after they released 3 studio albums, but my number 4 is a live album that they recorded unplugged, MTV concert, and then I got them big time. I'm talking about Nirvana and MTV Unplugged in New York. Fantastic album. It shows them as I would like to hear them. Nice and acoustic, and it highlights the great songwriting and arrangements. And when I heard Kurt Cobain singing a cover of David Bowie's "The Man Who Sold the World" on that show, when watching it on TV, I thought, I'm converted. This is a fantastic version, and it's just an album that I go to frequently because of the songs and the way they were presented to us in 1994 prior to Kurt's untimely death. So my number 4, boys, is Nirvana, the MTV Unplugged in New York.
Beautiful.
Okay, Martin, you're number 3.
My number 3 is a female artist who we know quite well, Wendy Matthews. Of course, had some solo songs, solo records out, and sung backing vocals with the Models and Absent Friends. But her album, The Witness Tree, I just found very winsome and fascinating. Listen, produced by Booker T. Jones from Booker T and the MGs, And one of the songs on there, I Ain't Wrong, was co-written by Wendy, Booker T, and Don Walker, of course, who we know from Cold Chisel. A couple of covers from Paddy McAloon, the key writer for Prefab Sprout. So she's got me there straight away. She wanted to be a not particularly religious gospel album, to have the gospel feeling, but not a specific religion. And still cover of Oh Happy Day. And of course, her version of the song that Elvis did so well, If I Can Dream, absolutely stunning, hair-raising song. So there you go. My number 3, The Witness Tree from Wendy Matthews.
Good stuff. Where's your number 3?
You ready for another sideways?
Yes, always.
In 1994, a UK singer and songwriter who was responsible for a string of hit records in the 80s released a serious album for Sony Classical. Some have described the project, which is a hybrid of classical and pop, as an overlooked masterpiece, an artistic project, or a gem. They're true reviews, by the way. Now, the instrumentals, which are called nocturnes, as well as the songs, which I'm going to call pop music for grown-ups, is really a forgotten album in this man's catalogue, and perhaps it needs a second look. 70% of the people who purchased the album on Amazon have given it a 5-star review. I'm not sure if that's just one person or hundreds of people, but that's a significant thing. I use this album whenever I'm in a pensive mood. It's quirky and not the sort of thing that you'd expect from the man who gave us Real Men. Is she really going out with him, stepping out, and you can't get what you want till you know what you want? It's night music, or as Mozart might have said, eine kleine Nacht music. Joe Jackson, on the 3 song or album.
Yeah.
Wow, there you go.
Cool.
We're just pulling them out, aren't we?
Well, my number 3 is a fellow which had my number 1 song last time with the singles, and it's Beck and his album Mellow Gold. A great eclectic mix of everything. He just throws everything in. You don't know what to expect one song to the next. He'll throw in an organ in one track and various other instruments in the next one, and his mixing of musical styles and instruments is very appealing to me. And this album really, at the time, I guess, shocked me. With Loser as being the opening first track that I heard from him, and listening to the album and experiencing the mix that he encompasses throughout. It just he just doesn't have any filters as far as what to put into his music. And it's great. And what it does is it gives you a sense of, I want to keep listening to this, because it's not something you get sick of very quickly. And Beck's done a great job, as I mentioned last time, throughout his career. And this is just one of the great albums amongst many that he has recorded over the years. So my number 3, boys, is Mellow Gold by Beck. Okay. All right, so let's get to number 2. Martin?
My number 2 artist, I've tended to think of him as John Mayer for grown-ups, but maybe John Mayer is John Mayer for grown-ups now that he's older and diversified. But in 94, Dave Matthews Band. And I saw Dave Matthews Band on television. It must have been Rage, and they'd had a single out called Ants Marching. And it was like acoustic music with this propulsive driving rhythm, and a violinist who would do a hoedown, square dance breakdown in the middle. And I'm like, what is this? I have got to find what this comes from. So I went to the local record store and put it on the headphones and having a listen. It's like, yeah, I'll take that one, thanks. Under the Table and Dreaming. Now, I have subsequently discovered that a little bit of Dave Matthews Band goes a long way. You don't need the entire catalogue, but this album hit the spot for me at the time, absolutely. And I want to draw attention to one other song on there called Satellite, which I tried to learn it on the guitar, and it is the strangest, most finger stretching positioning to get this. And then I saw an interview with him recently, and he says, I was inspired by King Crimson and their polyrhythms and their mandala kind of interlocking parts, and I'm trying to do it just by myself. And it's like, okay, that answers that. Too clever for the room, not quite. Absolutely captivating stuff. And if you've never heard him before, by all means, go and dig in. As I say, a little bit goes a long way, but I love this one, Under the Table and Dreaming, from Dave Matthews Band, my number 2 album.
Wow. Okay.
I love that. I love Dave Matthews, particularly a concert that he recorded a few years ago for public TV in America, and just stunning performance. I particularly like the live stuff that he's done. Haven't been able to get as much into his recorded material, but the live stuff, wow, what an ensemble. Just
That kind of puts me to sleep. The live stuff puts me to sleep.
okay.
But selected recordings, yeah. Let me pick and choose them. But somebody worth knowing about, by all means, absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, Wes, what's your number 2?
Mm. And you might remember this singer as the mute terrorist in a film called Die Hard with a Vengeance.
I know where you're going, Wes. I know where you're going.
I know where you're going.
Yes, I loved her previous albums, Cruel Inventions and The Indescribable Wow. This one, produced by T-Bone Burnett, is filled with memorable tunes, and particularly those that I think pay homage to the Beatles and various other 60s groups, or maybe that's just the way that T-Bone Burnett framed the songs.
One of the songs was a John Lennon song.
Yes.
Yeah.
Her voice is unconventional, and the songs have a wit that make her lyrics rewarding, and they're very thought-provoking. The strongest tracks are Baby I Can't Pleasure, I Need Love, and as you say, the John Lennon track, Give Me Some Truth. Over the years, she's continued to write music for herself and television music. She's written 153 episodes of Gilmore Girls, 18 episodes of Bunheads, and more recently, 19 episodes of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. My number 2 album, Martinis and Bikinis, was nominated for a Grammy Award, and the singer is Sam Phillips, who was previously known as Leslie Phillips.
Great choice, Wes.
Not to be confused with Leslie Phillips, the English actor, or Sam Phillips, the American producer.
No.
But a worthy position, absolutely.
Correct. All right, my number 2, also reflected from my singles of last time that we met. It's Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, an album called Let Love In. And this is Nick Cave at his best, in my opinion. This is where he's moving from the ultra noisy to the ultra sophisticated, with a great album of diverse, incredible songwriting. And this album just hits the mark for me. Not only does it have that single that I referenced last time, Do You Love Me? But also the other single, Red Right Hand, which was brought to my memory by one of our viewers who put a comment in of his top 5 songs, and Red Right Hand was one of his top 5 by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. This is a great album, boys, and worthy of checking out if you haven't done so in the past. It's Nick at his best vocally, and the Bad Seeds at their best musically. A really good album. My number 2, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Let Love In. Okay, before we get to our number 1s, let's do some honorables. We'll start with you, Martin.
Yeah, what an interesting year for classic rock acts. So Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd, Neil Young, Page and Plant, half of Led Zeppelin, I guess, all put out albums that weren't exactly career defining. They kind of trod water. Some might disagree with that. Johnny Cash had the first of his American recordings albums, which were pivotal in repositioning him back into the forefront of the marketplace, and similar to what I was saying about the alternative artist doing the same for the Carpenters. He had Rick Rubin helping to draw attention back to himself. Interesting that so many of the big 80s metal bands were kind of off the page, really. It was the kind of post-grunge, the twilight of grunge, but the continuation of the hard rock / alternative bands. So Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, Pantera, Nine Inch Nails, Stone Temple Pilots, Soundgarden, and so on and so forth. Stone Roses' second album came out called Second Coming, which is a bit of a letdown, really. I missed out on listening to Sunny Day Real Estate. I didn't know anything about them. And if I was listening to them at the time, I think I probably would have liked them a lot. Oasis arrived on the scene. Blur continued on the scene. And of course, huge influence. 2 albums that I think are my consolation prizes. One is, of course, Jeff Buckley's Grace, which had a very profound impact for the next several years. Just that whole idea of the sensitive singer-songwriter who could do that almost operatic, mesmerizing, very hypnotic, but not particularly a style that you could pick where he was influenced from. It was something all of his own. And of course, his cover of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah became a staple of television talent shows ever after, and has tortured our eardrums ever since. Thank you, Jeff. But his own version, of course, was exquisite. And a band that I had been following for a few albums put out their 5th, King's X Dogman. And this was the point in which I kind of drew the lid on listening to new King's X records. Their first 2 albums I thought were stunning. And one of those bands that could have been the biggest band in the world, but never quite broke through, and never quite sure why. So that's my contenders, the people who didn't make my top 5 list. And interesting year, bit of treading water, some pivotal moments, but not a lot that stayed in the eardrums in the decades since.
I concur with that. Where's your honorables?
I really struggled to come up with even 5 that were albums which were significant to me. And that's not because of any other reason than, hey, I might have loved something in 1994. And I gave you a hint of what some of those were when we were talking earlier. But I don't necessarily still like them today. But then on the other hand, you can go, well, I like that album. Hey, that comes from 1994. I can include that. And this is one of those cases. And this is something that I just completely went over my head at the time. And it was by Brandy Norwood. Never heard of it, have you? Better known as Brandy. And
right.
Better known as Brandy. Her dad, Willie Norwood, is a great gospel singer in the US. But For Brandy, she's got a mix, I guess, of hip hop, soul, and R&B, and her eponymous debut album had a number of singles from that. I Want to Be Down, Baby, Best Friend, and Broken Hearted. Did quite well, and probably is one of her best-selling albums. That album called Brandy, by Brandy, the one that missed.
I've only got two honourables. Martin mentioned one of them as he was flying through those. It's Park Life by Blur. I kind of got into the Britpop scene when it first came out, and enjoyed Oasis, but Park Life is probably the album that I stand higher than the other ones, particularly from Oasis. But the other one is Weezer, and it's their self-titled debut, the Blue Album. A great album of just great rock songs, and I probably should have included Buddy Holly in my honourables last time in the singles, because I still love that song. It's a great song by Weezer, but they've also, and that's another band that's released some terrific albums over the years, and probably should be pursued if one hasn't done that already. All right, well, let's get into our number one albums. Martin, I'll start with you.
Well, Wes kind of stole my thunder with this one. Is Martinis and Bikinis by Sam Phillips, and an artist who hadn't been following from the start of her. Leslie, kind of once T-Bone Burnett got involved with producing her records, she had a record under her original name, Leslie Phillips, called The Turning, which was just stunning. And then got into this Baroque pop sort of thing, harpsichords and jangly acoustic instruments and throbbing cellos, and certainly by the time her third album as Sam Phillips came along, I was in hook, line, and sinker. Probably my most played album that year, and not something that I've stuck with over the years. It's a pretty dark record thematically, but I Need Love, I still enjoy listening to, and Strawberry Road, I still enjoy listening to. And her most recent album called World on Sticks is worth a listen as well. So she's still making music, and always worth checking out what she's up to.
Beautiful. Wes, what's your number one?
You're not
Come
going
on.
to see this coming to you. My number one album from 1994 is from an Australian singer who's garnered international success, selling more than 10 million albums. She's recorded songs in English, Italian, French, and Spanish, and recorded duets with Celine Dion and Donna Summer. 20 years earlier, she was selected to be part of the Young Talent team, and she recorded a cover of MacArthur Park and also You're the One That I Want, the song from Greece. She's recorded numerous top 10 hits here, including I Need Your Body, Chains, Sorrento Moon, Burn, and Symphony of Life. In fact, two of those top 10s that I just mentioned are from my number one album of 1994. The reason why I like this album is because of her memorable songs, particularly Sorrento Moon and Wasn't It Good. Chains has a particularly sultry rockin' vibe, and Heaven Help My Heart shows the power of a voice, and Sorrento Moon, that softer side. It's pop with a European flair. I'm talking about Don't Ask from Tina Arena, my number one album of 1994.
Wow. Okay.
I feel like we all need to stand up and salute for that one.
What do you mean?
Go Tina, go Tina. That's all I'm saying.
Look, it's completely out of the blue, really. When you look at Beck and you're looking at Weezer and, and the other acts that you guys have mentioned, it's like no one saw that coming.
Well, as I said about the Carpenters, good music is good music. And right, genre is an invention of the marketing people to so that they can do projections to satisfy the people who are writing the checks. They can say, "Oh, we think these," good music is good music, and what a parade of achievements Tina has achieved, and we all recognise her talent for sure.
Yeah, definitely a great voice, Wes. Still has it, still has the chops.
Yeah.
Great vocalist. Well, you both have stolen my thunder, so I've got nothing more to say with regard to my number one. What a great performer, what a great album, Martinis and Bikinis. What else can we say about Sam Phillips? I latched on to Sam with The Turning in 1987, as she was known as Leslie Phillips then, and then she converted to Sam Phillips with the Indescribable Wow album, and I've been a convert since. She's great. And Martinis and Bikinis is probably a highlight of her immense career. I love her. I love her music, and this is a worthy number one. And I echo the things that both of you have said about this album. It can't be understated. Great album. That's my number one. And that's it, boys. That is it for our 1994. Interesting.
Ticked all three, eh? Unbelievable. This is the first time that's happened, I think.
I thought we were going to make it with nothing in common this time. How wrong I was.
Yeah, I had a feeling. I had a feeling. But that is a great album. And looking forward to catching up next time when we look at the singles of 1964.
Hey, Beatles, Rolling Stones, Elvis.
Lulu,
Yes,
Van Morrison.
them.
Yeah.
All right. I look forward to your top fives. Until next time, boys, catch you later.
Cheers, Bucks.
Huge assignment. What an assignment.